Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy. And I tell it like it is, with another special edition of Story Time here on a late night on a Saturday night. That's right, fans. Late night television, YouTube, a show, because it's certainly not a fucking podcast. So as I welcome you into Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel, grab a beverage, grab a late night snack, sit back and relax, turn the lights down low for story time. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted, raw dog for you, the fans. Some folks will do a lot of things with their 15 minutes of fame. September 26th, 1996, ECW Invasion, In Your House 10, Mind Games from the Core State Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Thank you, Austin Nance and the OTS Tribal Queen, for modding the live premiere chat. This will be up tonight, late night on Saturday night. It doesn't get any better than this. I'm full of piss and vinegar. I might start on a regular rotation of fitting in story time or flashback or this date in pro wrestling history or just one of my numerous Chaos Corner shows, and maybe even go live as opposed to live to tape 25 feet below the surface of the earth. Wait a minute. I'm live here on a Saturday night, perhaps even approaching a Sunday morning, but I'm taping it at the same time. Quite the kerfuffle. Ponder that. Fuck it. You guys get the idea. Let's get back to story time. Thank you for being here. A lot of distractions going on in the world. A lot of chaos going on in the world, and that is pun intended. So stay mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually fit, because if he's for us, no one else can be against us, because that's all we really have, because a lot of this is out of our control. And I know you guys know that, but I just wanted to throw that out there. And again, thanks for being here. Impromptu late night. Wrestling, like all entertainment, is cyclical. What's hot in one generation is rejected by the next. The wheel of taste spins until what's old is new, and what's new isn't so much new at all. Just a different twist on the old. Now remember, here on the Time Machine in Chaos Corner, we go forward to go back. September 26th, 1996. Let that marinate. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, especially right now. In WWF back in the mid-90s, we could feel that need for change again. Norms were shifting, and not just in wrestling, but in culture in general. A huge benefit of working in the live event space for 5 decades is getting to watch trends change over time and seeing the difference in the makeup of your audience down through the years. When I started, it wasn't unusual to see grandmothers in the stands. Then it morphed into dads and their young sons, onto rebellious college students, to nowadays the encouraging sign of more young women at our events too. How true. But whatever the era, those faces in the buildings were and are our nightly focus groups, just like you guys here on Chaos Corner. Over 3,000 videos here on the channel. Go to the playlist, navigate the channel. You'll find everything from my in-ring career to my 30 years as a pro wrestling manager who took the fucking bumps, booked over 100 times a year, came out 2 and 3 times a show, so that equals out to about 200 matches a year, somewhere thereabouts. I failed math 3 times in college before I finally passed it. Don't get me started here late night. I'll wake up the whole bunker. So by 1996, we knew by the empty stands and the shrinking till receipts, because it's all about putting asses in seats, that what might have worked before wasn't working now. The audience was rejecting the cartoon characters. The kids' first approach that led the WWF to success in the late 80s, which is what I always say here about that late 80s into the early 90s cartoon era of the World Wrestling Federation. It couldn't compete with Jim Crockett Promotions, aka the NWA, WCW. That's just my interpretation, and especially a few years earlier in the territory days before Hulkamania went wild. You guys know I'm big on the territories. The product was uncool, out of mainstream conversation, and for the first time in Vince's reign, his stars were leaving to join WCW instead of the other way around. And to add insult to injury, their leaving had sparked a huge turnaround for WCW, hence the Monday Night Wars. Perhaps one of the greatest eras in all time of pro wrestling, at least in my 60 plus years on the face of the earth. That's right, the old man brand, the over 50 demo god, still holding it down, keeping it real and maintaining. Because in order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. Eric Bischoff had a red-hot angle involving the formation of the New World Order. And I could say that because it's about pro wrestling. I'm not talking about the current state of affairs and the world governments and the alphabet mafia, but it's true. You guys know it. It's another show for another time because I'm here as a distraction to get us away from all the garbage that's going on and the false info being tossed out there by the media and big pharma and big tech and the government. Let me not get crazy. It's late night here, but so I'm off on a little bit of a tangent. Focus, chaos, focus. A formation of the New World Order, a faction of ex-WWF main eventers, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, that blurred the line between story and real life as they played up the notion that they were actually WWF invaders promising to take over WCW by any means necessary. Emotional investment, storytelling, ring psychology, the three basics I tell you about every fucking time on this channel. And while Eric was working with Vince's former guys, McMahon was struggling just to keep his circus financially on the road. Things were dire on the surface. Underneath, though, we had Steve Austin toiling in the mid-card, had just signed Mick Mankind Foley, and I'd also just closed a deal for a rookie named Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. We didn't know it at the time, but a serious boom was bubbling right underneath our noses. Kind of like the core of the earth right now with all the earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes and fires and tsunamis and floods. I get it. Too much, too soon, too early, too late. It's real current events. We're in real time here in 2024. Okay, all right, I'll get back to pro wrestling. The two biggest wrestling companies in the world were hard at work trying to figure out their next steps, but it was the birth of a much smaller outfit that would tap into the era's gritty zeitgeist, the shrewdest zeitgeist. Google it. No, don't go Google it like the rest of you geeks and neckbeards and mouth breathers and virgins and goons. No offense, man. Kayfabe. Use DuckDuckGo. It's a better search engine, a little more privacy. Although Big Brother's watching us everywhere, and we know that. All you gotta do is look at what's happening overseas, across the pond. All right, I'm gonna focus. Okay, all right. Yeah, we got a few people lurking about here late night. Have another finger sandwich or a beverage, la cerveza más fina, or something, man. Shh. You too. All right, focus. Where was I? When self-described pain in the ass Paul Heyman got fired from WCW for being, well, a pain in the ass, he ended up the booker of a small NWA-affiliated territory in Philadelphia called Eastern Championship Wrestling, who I have worked for before. Finally, Paul, who'd spent his career thus far perpetually frustrated and constantly annoyed and had to living at had having to listen to others, we all have to at one time or another, had his own little kingdom to make in his image. Here we go, fans. Sit back. It wasn't long before he was raising hell again by throwing the NWA heavyweight title in the trash and proclaiming it the E in ECW, which now stood, anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? Hello, McFly, is anybody home? Eastern Championship Wrestling? Extreme! EC-Dub, EC-Dub, EC-Dub! So now the E in ECW stood for extreme. It was clear that Heyman's intention was to separate ECW from the old ties that bound it to the past, and to make this newly rebranded company immediately stand out from the pack, and boy did it work. ECW quickly built up a cult-like fan base who packed into the tiny ECW arena, which Jerry the King Lawler routinely called a bingo hall on air. And we know that if you guys know your history. To watch a Wild West wrestling show that was a mix of Jerry Springer. Yes, I was on Springer with the Iron Sheik as well. Amazing Tales. Go out and research it, and you'll see Big Daddy was on Springer, the same episode with the Iron Sheik. I'll never forget going up to his hotel, because we were flown out to Chicago and went to the House of Blues and the Crowbar, and went up and visited the Sheik in the hotel room, and he said, the old glass dick, I'm just saying what I say, man. I'm just telling the truth, man. I don't bullshit here. I give it to you real, raw dog. But what a great guy, the Iron Sheik. Rest in peace, Sheik. You were so cool with us. Conversations that I'll never forget. The Sheik, Jerry Springer, Amazing Tales. Go out and research it. Let me see how good you are. And if you could find the footage, it's right here on the channel if you navigate it. As I said, it was gritty and visceral and profane and defiant, and it quickly bullied its way into the broader conversation about 90s professional wrestling. Excuse me, the allergies are still kicking ass here in the dog days of summer in August. And it was that very buzz they were creating that convinced McMahon to bring them to our pay-per-view In Your House Mind Games. The boss knew he needed to change the menu, and putting a dressing around the old classics wasn't going to do it anymore. When Tommy Dreamer and Sandman appeared at ringside that night, they might not have brought much national name value at the time, but they sure brought a shot of energy and chaos. That's right, chaos. It says it right here. To a WWF show that needed something to jolt it back to life and creatively as well. And with them came their head of their creative, the wise man, if you will, Paul Heyman. Let me adjust for the rest of this. Glad you guys are here. I don't know what time it is. It's after 11 p.m., I believe. Somewhere thereabouts. Don't quote me, man. I think Vince saw a lot of himself in Paul, and it started a relationship between the two men that's still going on to this day. Although that's good shit, pal. Vince is persona non grata, but Heyman has survived that son of a bitch, right? Give him credit, man. But back then, Paul was there to promote his tiny ragtag outfit, which he described as the Howard Stern show of professional wrestling. Another asshole, Howard Stern. I can say it's my own channel. You're an asshole, Howard. I hope somebody clips it and sends it to you. You sellout, you pig. You're a despicable human being. And a liar. Pathological on top of it. What do I say? I'm not here to slander anybody. I apologize. I'm just telling it like it is. That's the phrase. It's me, it's the GOC, and I'll say that to say this because I tell it like it is. Hello? McFly? I already said it? I gotta refer to it again? Oh, brother. So right there in their home state of Philadelphia, They disrupted proceedings as planned, and Dreamer led the WWF audience in an ECW chant. As I sat at the commentary, the fan in me couldn't help but notice just how much like Mid-South ECW was. And that made the fan in me happy to think that that kind of hard-hitting, reality-based wrestling was not only still alive, but thriving in its own way in a whole new era. The broadcaster in me knew I was there to soft sell the whole thing and to make it look as real as possible. They have a small vocal contingent, and this is their home base, and we're just glad they bought tickets, to quote good old JR. In the ring, we had a Caribbean strap match between Justin Hawk Bradshaw, JBL, and Savio Vega. No me jodas, maricón, muévete, culo, pendejo, de nada, man. It's a joke, man. Lighten up, man. What I say? To all my Spanish-speaking friends out there. Which in no time at all spilled to the outside right in front of our extreme guests. Meaning the guys from talent from ECW. Again, excuse me, it's the post-nasal drip down the throat. You go, allergies? That's these last week or two. Not to get off subject here, which is what I do almost every time on the show, but kind of kicking my ass a little bit lately. And I really don't take anything for it. Me. Now, you know how vital the pipes are to my channel, to my show, and to what I do here. Sandman took the close-up opportunity to spit his beer at Vega. Act 2 again. It always seems to be coming up, whether it's in your personal life or with the Iron Sheik. What? It's late night. I could be rated R on late night, can't I? Although I guess you can watch this on a replay in the middle of the day or early in the morning. What was something I'd never seen before. He proceeded to bust his own head open by smashing himself repeatedly in the forehead with his beer can. I did an unbelievable press conference with the Sandman for the NAWA right here on the channel, where I took over commissioner for Bruno Sammartino back in 1999. Go back and check it out. You'll see from the Baldies, Tony DeVito, from the FBI, Big Guido, a giant Primo Carnera, Roughhouse Ralph Mosca, yours truly, of course, and the Sandman. It's right here on the channel. Navigate it. What an unbelievable press conference in 1999-2000 for the NAWA. Research that. Been around forever, a long history with great talent. Was perhaps in the late 90s going into the early 2000s maybe a fourth decent-sized promotion after WWF, WCW, ECW came onto the scene. And when they folded by the wayside, meaning ECW and WCW in the late 90s, early 2000s, NAWA was there to pick up the slack, running huge places like the Orange County Fairgrounds, the Westchester County Civic Center, so on and so forth. Do some research, fans. You come here to learn things, to learn facts, so that you know more when you leave than when you came in. So when you go to the next barbecue, cookout, the pub, the tavern, here late night, a venue, at work with your coworkers, you know what the fuck you're talking about, because you learn something here besides opinions and views and thoughts on Patreon and paywalls and all the rest of that horse shit. That's what you come here, to learn things. Take out your fucking notebook. I apologize for the excess cussing, but it's late night, so I have a little more leeway. It's like being on Netflix, man, right? As opposed to USA or Fox, where they bleep and black everything out. All right, focus, chaos. Let's get back to focusing here. We're talking about the Sandman spitting beer on people, smashing his forehead. We were a long way from the take your vitamins and say your prayers era of the Hulkster, and in the mid-90s, that wasn't a bad thing. Heck, Hulk Hogan himself was a long way away from the Hulkster at that point, having turned heel to huge effect in WCW. One of the biggest heel turns in the history of the sport. Change was coming, and Vince was beginning to move with it. As the scene played out, McMahon chimed in over commentary and told the crew not to film the ugly incident, while WWF officials hurried to ringside to kick out the Extreme Interlopers. It was a modest national introduction to a company whose extreme DNA is still found all over our business today, many years since it shut its doors. I have always saluted Paul Heyman's creation and his ability to motivate his team with an us versus the world mentality that worked and kept the ship afloat even when they were plagued by financial woes. Many viable stars were created in that company, and Heyman had the gift that many decision makers before him possessed in the territory days, thoroughly understanding his wrestlers and hiding their weaknesses from the TV viewer while exploiting those individual strengths. Smart, brilliant. ECW made unique and significant contributions to the pro wrestling world before eventually being bought by Vince in 2003. And their alumni should feel a source of pride for their cumulative accomplishments. The big talking point that night for me wasn't the attitude of ECW, though. It was the attitude of Vince McMahon himself. The chairman of the WWF wanted something more gritty and visceral on his show after years of shine and gloss. ECW showing up at the WWF event wasn't just someone freshening their menu, so to speak. It was someone who'd begun to see he needed to burn it all down and build it anew. In 1996, WCW may have struck gold, and ECW might have struck a vein, but WWF was very much the sleeping giant about to wake. Good stuff right there. And before we get out of here, because you never know what I'm going to say when we're going to get off the air, I try to keep these videos anywhere between 25 minutes to a half an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. I appreciate you guys. Much love and respect. And I just want to take a moment of silence and send out my condolences and prayers and thoughts and well wishes to the family and friends and co-workers of one Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. And if you go to the community page, you'll see pictures of me and Kevin Sullivan. We worked several of the same events throughout the late 90s into the early 2000s. Personally had opportunities to talk to Mr. Sullivan, Kevin, if you will, and I'll never forget the words that you said to me. So I greatly appreciate it. I'd like to take a moment of silence. Rest in peace to the legend. WWF, WCW, the NWA, Florida Championship Wrestling around the globe. Kevin Sullivan. Rest in peace, my brother. I'll say that to say this, because I tell it like it is. Don't you dare miss it. Thanks for being here on Late Night on Chaos Corner.